Good morning, student. I am Sarkar, Assistant Professor of Siliguri B.Ed College and Siliguri Primary Teachers Training College. Today, I will discuss REALIA Part 1, English, that is Unit 5, REALIA. First of all, what is REALIA? The word REALIA sounds vaguely. In Latin, everyday authentic object such as photograph, receipt, maps, movies, television shows and commercial receipt, even ticket, etc. that are used to teach and learn language to bring the class to life. The word refers to object or item from real life which are used in the classroom to illustrate and teach vocabulary or to serve and aid to facilitate language acquisition and the production. The object to bring the class to life. It can be understood as any real object which are introduced into the classroom for teaching purposes. Thus, REALIA are the things that student can see in the classroom. They can be simple object such as book, pen, desk, table, and complicated one like modern machine until the foreign currency. We usually uses flashcard and illustration when we have to teach fruits, vegetables in English. But student will be both surprised and thrilled if the teacher brings a basket full of fruits and not only have the student name them but also take the part in surprise indoor picnic. Another example of using REALIA. The English as a second language teacher may gather some bits and pieces that he or she has in his or her bag, parts around the house such as used cinema or concert ticket, train, bus ticket, cards. He or she receive the passport, photo, shopping receipt, etc. Then he or she will stick them on a piece of card or on a cork board. Get student to ask him or her about the item to gather information about him or her. As followed up, student may be asked to do the same and brings in some bits and bobs they have for their classmate to ask them about. Now we will move on the nature and the features of REALIA. REALIA are those objects with which both teacher and the student are familiar. They usually consist of following characteristic features. Number 1, emotional appealing. REALIA should be emotionally appealing the children. For example, while teaching continuous tense may make the child fly kite outside the wind. Another student, what is he doing? The teacher will do so because the children have an emotional attachment with that kite. Number 2, matching intellectual level. By presenting information through diverse media, REALIA help to make English language input as comprehensive as possible. Next point, familiarity. The object should be familiar to the students. Number 4, availability. The REALIA should be such nature as readily available not only to the teacher but also for the children. Number 5, related to target culture. The student in the distinct of some parts will be more familiar with the pros and cons associated with the technique, whereas the dance form and almost all the children are familiar with the kites or dots. Number 6, multi-sensory. REALIA provides language learners with multi-sensory impression of language which is learned partly at least through seeing, hearing, touching and manipulating item. Interactive. Next point, interactive and flexible. The material are truly interactive and more flexible than traditional one in that they can be easily adapted and updated. For example, a page from a browser can easily be digitally altered for use in an information gap activity without damaging original. Next point, self-study. For self-study, the most helpful REALIA illustrate how the language is actually used in the country where it is spoken. Now we will move on importance of using REALIA in English as a second language classroom. The immense importance of usage of REALIA in English as a second language classroom can hardly be ignored. We can sum up their importance in the following ways. Number 1, kinesthetic learning is a type of learning that students will most effectively acquire, mostly because they will have hand-on experience. The use of REALIA brings a welcome change in the class, a break from typical class activities like reading and writing. Using REALIA stimulates the mind and makes vocabulary more memorable than a picture which student can touch, smell, and with a food item and taste of it. Perhaps most importantly, mass media provides student opportunity to read or hear item of personal interest. Using REALIA stimulates the mind and in one way of encouraging creativity by involving senses. They are often as more interesting than material from the textbook and can be on subject that will really engage the student. REALIA breath life into new vocabulary and chances of student remembering new words and the teacher has taught them increases. Now we will move on strategy for using REALIA in English as a second language classroom. The first question regarding the strategy is whether authentic material should be adapted for instructional use or used in an authentic form. One point of view is that they should be given the student unadulterated without commentary for their interest and appreciation. On the other hand, there is good justification for professional intervention at all levels, especially since a teacher can select materials, explain difficulties of their grammars and vocabularies, and point out the cultural distinction. The well-informed teacher is the best position to explain hundreds of points of cultural as they related to content and vocabulary. When in doubt, the best idea is to experiment with both adapted and unadapted material. There are advantages to teach now. Step-by-step procedure of how this strategy can be implemented in learning activity and how it can be used in general can be stated as follows. Number 1, beware of opportunity to include REALIA in the lesson as you plan. Read earlier stories that will be helpful for using in the classroom to identify any vocabulary that may be unfamiliar to the student. Look at REALIA that will help their understanding. Number 2, begin collecting items that can be stored in the classroom to use whenever needed. Have the parents help donate to the REALIA box. Number 3, collaborate with other grade level teacher to build a REALIA library to use the major theme in it, and local merchant and farmer and other resources for the loan of a large item such as farm equipment or animals. Last point, if the item is too large to bring or move to the student would be benefited from seeing it. Take to a field trip. This much for today. Thank you.